You think loyalty and hard work guarantee success. I used to believe that too. I believed it for 6 straight years, right up until one Monday morning when my name disappeared from everything that mattered. Every report. Every meeting invite. Every project dashboard I had built with my own hands. It was as if I'd never existed. 6 years of being the backbone of our entire infrastructure, erased overnight. And the worst part? They didn't even have the decency to tell me. My name is Claire. I'm 36 years old, and until that morning, I thought I'd built something unbreakable at North Point Dynamics. That Monday started like any other. Coffee at 7:30. Inbox scan at 7:45. Prep notes for the 9 a.m. executive sync I had led for 4 years. Except when I opened the calendar invite, my name wasn't there. Not moved to optional. Not marked tentative. Gone. Surgically removed. I refreshed the page. Once. Twice. 3 times. Same result. The architecture review I designed from scratch now showed presenter, TBD. The Q3 roadmap deck I'd spent 2 weeks perfecting had been reassigned to someone named Madison Carter. A name I didn't recognize. No email. No explanation. Just a quiet void where my responsibilities used to live. The walk to the conference room felt longer than usual. Each step echoed like a countdown I couldn't stop. When I pushed open the glass door, the conversation died instantly. 14 people went silent at the same time, then looked away as if I'd become radioactive. At the head of the table sat Evan Cole, our new CEO. 32. Polished. Confident in the way only people who've never built anything from scratch can be. His tailored suit probably cost more than my rent. Beside him sat a woman I'd never seen before. Early 30s. Immaculate blazer. Perfect posture. The kind of curated beauty that belonged more on LinkedIn banners than in infrastructure meetings. Claire, Evan said, smiling thinly. I wasn't sure you'd make it. I took my usual seat anyway, third from the left, across from the screen where my system diagrams were projected. Except they weren't mine anymore. Same architecture. Same logic. Same flow I designed over countless late nights. But the author field read, Strategic Systems Lead, Madison Carter. As Evans spoke about modernization and innovation, the word legacy floated through the room like a diagnosis. Legacy systems. Legacy thinking. Legacy people. I felt it land squarely on my chest. Madison began presenting. Calm. Confident. Using my work like it was a script she'd memorized. She talked about inefficiencies she'd identified in the platform I had built from the ground up. A platform that had maintained 99.9% uptime for 3 straight years. Engineers I'd mentored avoided my eyes. People whose careers I'd helped shape now stared at their laptops like witnesses who didn't want to testify. I opened my own computer. Not to interrupt. Not to defend myself. I observed. I always did. I noticed Madison's laptop accessing directories that required my personal credentials. I noticed Evan's hand rest on her shoulder just a second longer than necessary. I noticed the CFO watching them with the look of someone who already knew how the story ended. Any questions? Madison asked, looking directly at me. I had dozens. I chose one. Who approved the credential transfer for core repository access? Her smile faltered for half a second. Evan jumped in smoothly. We're streamlining access management. Details coming soon. The meeting went on for 40 minutes. They discussed my systems as if I were already gone. Planned changes to my architecture as if I were already irrelevant. I took notes in my private encrypted folder. The one they didn't know existed. The one that logged every access attempt, every modification, every digital fingerprint. When the meeting ended, I stayed behind, packing slowly. That's when I heard Evan's voice in the hallway, not quite low enough. She's done. Give it 2 weeks. She'll quit on her own. They thought deleting me from the narrative would make me disappear. They had no idea I was just getting started. Madison moved fast after that. Her calendar synced perfectly with Evan's late-night strategy sessions. Early mornings. Late evenings. Weekend prep meetings. Facilities mentioned Evan's car parked next to hers more than once. But Wednesday was when the theft stopped being subtle. An alert popped up on my monitoring dashboard. Someone was bulk downloading my Department of Energy documentation. 18 months of work. Architectural diagrams. Compliance frameworks. Security validations worth $184 million. The access logs showed Madison's credentials, but the behavior was wrong. This wasn't review. It was extraction. 20 minutes later, she was presenting her findings to the executive team. My words. My slides. My logic. Rebranded. Junior developers started calling me Compliance Claire. They laughed when I insisted on security protocols. Madison says we need to move fast, one of them said. Madison says. As if she'd ever written a production-ready line of code. That night, I pulled her background. Business degree. Brief consulting stint. A startup that never launched. Entry-level certifications completed months ago. 12 GitHub commits, all documentation edits. But her social media told a different story. Conferences. Yachts. And increasingly, Evan in the background. Sometimes with his wedding ring. Sometimes without. The most telling moment came from Raj in IT. He quietly forwarded me an access ticket. Madison had requested admin privileges, citing CEO authorization. Approved in 4 minutes. Normal approval time was 3 days. She asked me why we need databases if we have Excel, Raj whispered when we passed in the hallway. Friday's all hands made it official. Evan stood beside Madison as she presented my roadmap with buzzwords sprinkled like glitter. She's not constrained by how things have always been done, he said. Translation, I was the constraint. That afternoon, my desk was moved to the basement next to the server room. Not fired. Not demoted. Just buried. Space optimization, HR said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I sat in that windowless office, listening to the hum of servers I had configured myself. Surrounded by the system they thought they'd taken from me. What they didn't realize was that they'd just given me unrestricted access to the heart of everything. I opened my private repository and began documenting. Every unauthorized change. Every copied file. Every violation. Madison had stolen my work, but she didn't understand it. She was wearing my architecture like a costume. And costumes fall apart when the performance starts. The executive retreat was held at a mountain resort. I wasn't invited. But I still had access to the booking system I'd built years earlier. I checked in as a vendor. 3rd floor. Directly above the executive suite. That night, their voices drifted up through open windows. Champagne. Laughter. Plans. Evan's voice carried clearly. Once Madison lands the DOE deal, Claire's irrelevant. Madison laughed softly. She won't fight it. People like her never do. They were wrong about one thing. I had been planning for this longer than they realized. 3 years earlier, buried in an intellectual property agreement Evan had signed without reading, was a clause. Core system modifications required authorization from the original architect. Violate it, and ownership reverted to my designated entity. I'd formed that entity quietly. Claire Systems LLC. It had been dormant. Waiting. The system I built wasn't malicious. It was compliant. Modular. Elegant. And it had safeguards. Not to destroy anything. To protect it. I activated those safeguards Sunday night. Quietly. Legally. Monday morning, Madison's team tried pushing changes. The system accepted minor ones. Then they touched the core. Authorization required. They tried overriding it. Access denied. They tried again. Logged. Timestamped. Escalated. They decided to ignore it and proceed with the demo anyway. They had no idea they just started a countdown. And that's where things began to unravel. Tuesday morning arrived sharp and quiet, the kind of calm that only exists before something breaks. I was in the basement by 7, coffee cooling beside my keyboard, watching the system dashboards glow steady green. Everything was functioning perfectly. Exactly as designed. At 8:30, Madison's team began final demo prep. I could see the activity ripple through the logs. Test instances spun up. Credentials pinged endpoints they didn't fully understand. At 9:15, the first warning appeared. A visualization layer change triggered a soft validation delay. Nothing dramatic. Just enough to feel wrong. Someone typed in Slack that the dashboard was lagging. Madison brushed it off. Just refresh. Probably caching. It wasn't caching. It was the system asking a question it had never been allowed to ask before. Do you own this? By 10 o'clock, the Department of Energy delegation was seated in the boardroom upstairs. Engineers, not politicians. People who noticed details. I watched through a maintenance feed no one remembered I'd built. Madison stood at the front, polished, confident, my architecture diagrams glowing behind her. North Point has developed a revolutionary orchestration framework, she began. The lie sounded smooth because she'd practiced it. She clicked into the live demo. The screen loaded slowly. One component at a time. Her smile tightened. Minor latency, she said. Enhanced security checks. She opened the compliance module. The system paused, validated, then displayed a watermark across every report. Unverified modifications detected. One of the DOE engineers leaned forward. Is that normal? Madison hesitated. Development flag, she said quickly. Brad tried to SSH into production. Denied. He tried again. Denied. Each attempt logged, timestamped, classified. The system wasn't crashing. It was resisting. Who maintains the ownership certificates for this framework? The DOE engineer asked. Madison froze. Evan stood abruptly. Our senior architecture team handles that. The room went quiet. Everyone knew who that was supposed to be. Perhaps, the engineer said calmly, we should hear from the original architect. I was already on the stairs. When I entered the boardroom, the temperature dropped. Madison's face drained of color. Evan's jaw clenched. I took a seat without asking permission, opened my laptop, and connected to the screen. I have 3 questions, I said. They're simple. The board leaned in. First, who legally owns the orchestration framework powering this system? Evan's legal counsel began to speak, then stopped when I projected the contract Evan himself had signed. Subsection highlighted. Clear language. Ownership reversion clause. No expiration. Second, I continued, pulling up access logs. If modifications require authorization from the original architect, where are Madison Carter's certificates? Silence. Administrative access isn't ownership, I said gently. It never was. The DOE procurement specialist closed her notebook halfway. And my third question, I said, standing now, when a system enters dormant compliance mode during a federal demonstration due to unauthorized ownership claims, who holds the reactivation keys? I held up the USB drive. The room understood all at once. Evan exploded. This is sabotage. No, I replied. This is enforcement. The screen behind me flashed. Dormant compliance mode pending. Countdown initiated. 9 minutes. The board erupted. Phones came out. The DOE officials stepped back, already speaking into headsets. Potential fraud, I heard. Immediate suspension recommended. Madison tried to speak. She couldn't answer a single technical question. She couldn't even explain the basic consistency model. The countdown ticked down. 8 minutes. 7. Evan turned to me, desperate. What do you want? What was always mine, I said. Recognition. Ownership. And the truth on record. My lawyer's document slid across the table. Transfer of rights. Back royalties. Public acknowledgement. 6 minutes. Thompson, the board chair, read it once, then looked at Evan. Sign it. Evan shook, but he signed. 5 minutes. I inserted the USB drive. Typed one command. The countdown froze. The warnings cleared. Dashboards lit up green. Normal operations resumed. The room exhaled. Your resignation is effective immediately, Thompson said to Evan. He didn't argue. There was nothing left to argue. 3 days later, I sat in a quiet cafe, sunlight pooling across the floor. North Point was still scrambling. Investigations were underway. Madison had vanished. The DOE contract, now signed directly with my company, sat finalized in my inbox. $184 million. Earned, not stolen. A young engineer recognized me and thanked me quietly for proving that work still mattered. I finished my coffee and smiled. They tried to erase me. Instead, they taught me something better. If you build something real, protect it. Own it. And never confuse loyalty with surrender. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments where you're listening from. On your commute, at home, or late at night writing code. Have you ever had to defend your work from being taken? If you did, how did you handle it? Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Some systems remember their architects. And some stories deserve to be told.